Welcome to Gripping Tales. Are you ready for today's video? It starts now.
Listen, I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. I'm recording this from inside St. Catherine's Hospital. And before you ask, no, I'm not injured. No, I'm not visiting anyone. And no, I can't leave. You see, 3 nights ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I thought I was being brave, adventurous, one of those urban explorers who documents abandoned places for people like you. But St. Catherine's isn't abandoned. It's just selective about when it operates. I'm patient number 49, and if you're hearing this, I'm either already gone or I've figured out something that might save me. Either way, you need to know what happened. Because if you ever see this place, if you ever hear about St. Catherine's Hospital on Mercy Street, you need to run. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. Let me tell you about the night I became a patient in a hospital that shouldn't exist. It started the way these things always do, with a rumor. I was scrolling through an urban exploration forum at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday when I saw the post, St. Catherine's Hospital, Mercy Street, unexplored. The guy who posted it claimed he'd driven past it 100 times but never had the guts to go inside. Said there was something off about the place. Said it gave him nightmares just looking at it. Now, I'd been doing this for 3 years. Abandoned asylums, forgotten prisons, derelict schools. You name it, I'd filmed it. I had almost 200,000 subscribers who craved that next hit of adrenaline, that next brush with the unknown. And St. Catherine's? That was exactly the kind of place that could push me over the edge to 1 million followers. So I did what any rational person would do. I packed my gear, charged my cameras, and decided to go that very night. The drive took 45 minutes. Mercy Street was one of those roads that doesn't show up properly on GPS. You know the type. The kind that seems to exist in the space between two places, rather than being a place itself. Old streetlights flickered and died as I passed beneath them, and I swear to God I didn't see another car for the last 20 minutes of the drive. Then I saw it. St. Catherine's Hospital rose out of the darkness like a tombstone. 6 stories of grimy windows and crumbling brick, wrapped in chain-link fence that had more holes than metal. A faded sign hung at an angle near the entrance. St. Catherine's General Hospital, Estorade, 1952. I parked 2 blocks away, standard procedure, and made my approach on foot. My camera was rolling, my heart was pumping, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is the one that's gonna blow up. I had no idea how right I was. The fence was a joke. I found a gap within 30 seconds and slipped through, my backpack catching slightly on the jagged metal. The grounds were overgrown. Weeds had reclaimed the parking lot, pushing through cracks in the asphalt like skeletal fingers reaching up from underground. I did my standard intro for the camera. What's up, forgotten explorers? Tonight we're at St. Catherine's Hospital, a place that's been abandoned since 1987. They say it closed down after a series of mysterious patient deaths, but the official records are sealed. Let's see what secrets are hiding inside. The words felt hollow in the empty air. No echo, just absorption, like the building was swallowing my voice. I should have noticed that. The front doors were chained, but I'm not an amateur. I knew there'd be a service entrance. And sure enough, around the east side of the building, I found a door with the lock already broken. Someone had been here before, but from the rust and cobwebs, it had been a while. I pushed the door open with my shoulder. It screamed on its hinges, and the smell hit me immediately. Now, I've been in a lot of abandoned buildings, and they all have that same musty smell of decay and time. But this was different. This smelled clinical. Antiseptic. Like someone had been cleaning with bleach recently. In an abandoned hospital. That made no sense. I swept my flashlight across the corridor, peeling paint, water damage, scattered debris, all the usual signs of neglect. But then I saw them. Footprints. Fresh footprints in the dust, leading deeper into the hospital. Probably just some kids, I muttered to the camera, trying to convince myself more than my viewers. Or other explorers. No big deal. But I didn't believe it. Those footprints were too deliberate. Too purposeful. They didn't wander the way teenagers or explorers would. They walked in a straight line, like someone who knew exactly where they were going. I followed them anyway. Because that's what I do. That's what idiots like me always do. For the first hour, it was exactly what I expected. Abandoned hospital, creepy but manageable. I filmed empty patient rooms with beds still made, their sheets yellowed with age. I found an operating theater with rusted instruments scattered across a tray, looking like torture devices from another era. I even discovered a children's ward with faded cartoon characters painted on the walls. Disney characters, with their colors bleeding down the plaster like tears. Standard horror fare, good content. My subscribers would eat it up. But then I noticed something weird. The deeper I went into the hospital, the cleaner it became. The dust thinned out. The cobwebs disappeared. By the time I reached the 4th floor, the floors were practically spotless. The overhead lights, which shouldn't have had power, started humming softly, like they were preparing to wake up. I checked my watch. 2:47 a.m. Okay, this is officially creepy, I told the camera, forcing a laugh that sounded fake even to me. Somebody's definitely been maintaining this place. Maybe it's squatters? Or maybe... That's when I heard it. Ding! An elevator, somewhere down the hall, announcing its arrival to a floor, and an abandoned hospital, with no power. My blood went ice cold. Did you hear that? I whispered to the camera, because I needed confirmation. I needed to know I wasn't losing my mind. Hey. Ding. Closer now. The elevator was moving. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I'm a professional, right? I've built my entire channel on not running. On investigating the weird stuff. On being brave when others would flee. So I crept toward the sound, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The elevator was at the end of the corridor, its Art Deco doors gleaming like they'd just been polished. Above it, old-fashioned analog numbers clicked through floors. 3, 4, 5. It stopped on 4, my floor. I stood there, frozen, as those doors slid open with a mechanical sigh. The elevator was empty. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was that the interior lights were on, casting a warm yellow glow. The floor was polished, and there, mounted on the back wall, was a sign in pristine condition. Welcome to St. Catherine's Hospital. Ring bell for service. Below the sign was a brass button. And I swear to God, I don't know what possessed me, but I stepped inside. The moment, and I mean the exact moment, my foot crossed that threshold, everything changed. The lights in the corridor behind me blazed to life. Fluorescent tubes flickering on in sequence like dominoes falling. The walls looked different, cleaner, newer. The smell of antiseptic grew overwhelming, mixed with something else. Coffee, maybe? And beneath it all, something copper and wrong. I spun around, but the elevator doors were already sliding shut. Wait! Wait! I lunged for them, but I was too slow. They sealed with a soft click, and the elevator began to descend. 3, 2, 1, B2, hang. It stopped on B2. The doors opened. I wasn't in an elevator anymore. I was standing at the entrance to a fully operational hospital basement. The floor gleamed. The walls were painted a fresh, institutional green. And ahead of me stretched a corridor lined with doors, each one marked with a number. But it was the sound that really got me. Voices. Distant but distinct. Conversations happening just around corners. Footsteps echoing on linoleum. The beep 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 of medical equipment. A phone ringing somewhere. Someone coughing. An intercom crackling to life. Dr. Weathers to OR3. Dr. Weathers to OR3. Oh. The hospital was alive. I pulled out my phone to call for help, but there was no signal. Of course there wasn't. I checked the time. 3 a.m. exactly. That's when I heard the footsteps behind me. I turned slowly, so slowly, and saw her. She was a nurse. Or at least, she looked like a nurse. White uniform, hair pinned back, a clipboard in her hands. But her skin was gray, not like she was sick gray like old newspaper. Like ash. Like something that had been dead for a very long time. Her eyes were hollow, dark pits that should have been filled with color but weren't. As she was smiling at me, "Welcome to St. Catherine's," she said, her voice cheerful and dead at the same time. "We've been expecting you. You're right on time." I think there's been a mistake," I stammered. "I'm not supposed to be here. I'm just..." "You're patient number 49, she interrupted, checking her clipboard. "Admitted at 3 a.m. That's correct, isn't it? We have your bed ready." No, I'm not a patient. I'm just exploring. I'm leaving. Right now." I turned toward the elevator, but it was gone. Just a solid wall where the doors had been. The nurse's smile widened, and I could see now that her teeth were too white, too perfect, like dentures in a skull. "Nobody leaves St. Catherine's," she said softly. "Not until they're discharged. You know the rules." "I don't know any rules. I don't even know what this place is." She tilted her head, and I heard something crack in her neck. Why, we're a hospital, dear. We treat patients. And you've been suffering for such a long time, haven't you? All that fear, all that loneliness, all those nights you couldn't sleep, wondering if anyone would miss you if you were gone. We can help with that. How did she know that? How could she possibly know that? Come along, she said, turning away. Dr. Ashford wants to see you before we get you settled. Room 49 is just down the hall. I didn't follow her by choice. My legs just started moving, like they weren't mine anymore, like the hospital had claimed them already. We walked down that corridor, past door after door. I caught glimpses through their windows. Patients in beds, some sleeping, some staring at the ceiling with wide, unblinking eyes. They all looked wrong. Gray skin, hollow eyes. Some of them had been there so long that they'd started to merge with the beds, their bodies becoming part of the hospital itself. How many patients do you have here? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. 48 until tonight, the nurse said cheerfully. But we always need one more. 49 is such a significant number, don't you think? 7 times 7. Completion. Perfection. We stopped at a door marked, Consultation Drive T. Ashford, #. She knocked twice, then opened it without waiting for an answer. The office inside was immaculate. Wooden desk, leather chair, diplomas on the wall. All of it looking like it belonged in a 1950s medical drama. And behind the desk sat a man in a white coat, his face buried in a patient file. When he looked up, I nearly screamed. He was like the nurse, but worse. His skin wasn't just gray. It was translucent, like old plastic wrap stretched over bone. I could see the shadow of his skull beneath. His eyes were milky white, completely blind, but somehow he was looking right at me. "Patient 49, he said, his voice a dry rasp. "Please, sit down." I didn't want to. God, I didn't want to. But my body obeyed, lowering me into the chair across from him. He opened a file. My file, though I'd never been here before, and began reading. Male, age 28, urban explorer, unmarried, estranged from family, suffering from chronic anxiety, depression, and a persistent fear of insignificance, self-medicating with adrenaline-seeking behavior, entering abandoned buildings to feel alive because normal life makes you feel dead. He looked up at me with those horrible blind eyes. Does that sound accurate? I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Because he was right. He was completely right. We specialize in cases like yours, Dr. Ashford continued. People who are already halfway to death, even while they're still alive. People who don't fit in the world outside. People who are forgotten. I don't need help, I finally managed. I just want to leave. I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, St. Catherine's operates on very specific rules. We open at 3 a.m. We close at 6 a.m. During those 3 hours, we exist fully in your world. Anyone who enters during that window becomes a patient, and patients cannot leave until they're cured. Cured of what? He smiled, showing gray gums and yellowed teeth. Of living, of course. I bolted. Some primal part of my brain finally overrode the paralysis, and I lunged out of my chair, threw open the door, and ran. The nurse tried to grab me, but I shoved past her, sprinting down the corridor. Doors flew open as I passed, patients reaching out with gray hands, their voices calling after me. Stay! Stay with us! You belong here! I found a stairwell, and took the stairs 3 at a time, climbing toward what I hoped was an exit. The hospital seemed to fight me. Stairs that went up suddenly went down. Corridors twisted back on themselves. Doors opened into walls. But finally, I burst through a door and found myself in the main lobby. The front entrance was right there, chained but right there. I could see the parking lot outside. Dawn was breaking. The sky was that pale purple color just before sunrise. If I could just get outside, if I could just make it until 6 a.m. I threw myself at the doors, pulling at the chains. They rattled but held. I looked around frantically for something to break them with. A fire extinguisher, a chair, anything. Patient 49. Dr. Ashford stood behind me, perfectly calm, perfectly still. Behind him, I could see dozens of others. Nurses, doctors, orderlies, all with that same gray skin, those same hollow eyes, and behind them, shambling slowly forward, were the patients. 48 patients. All of them were watching me. You can't fight it, Dr. Ashford said. The hospital has already accepted you. You felt it the moment you stepped inside, didn't you? That sense of belonging, of finally being somewhere you fit? I don't belong here, I screamed, yanking at the chains. I'm not like them, I'm not dead. Not yet, he agreed. But you will be. That's what St. Catherine's does. We help people transition. We make it easier, painless. And in return, you get to stay with us. Forever. Part of the family. The chains wouldn't budge. The sun was rising. Any second now, it would be 6 a.m., and the hospital would close, and I'd still be inside, and something caught my eye. On the wall near the entrance there was a plaque. Bronze, tarnished with age. I'd seen it when I first entered but hadn't read it. Now, in the pale morning light, I could make out the words. In memory of the 49 souls lost in the fire of 1987, may they find peace in these halls. 49 souls. Patient number 49. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. You're not real, I whispered, turning back to Dr. Ashford. None of this is real. This hospital burned down in 1987. You all died. He smiled wider. Death is such a limiting concept, don't you think? We prefer to think of it as a career change. But I'm alive, you can't keep me here. Can't we? He gestured to the window. Look outside, really look. I didn't want to. Every fiber of my being screamed not to look. But I did. The parking lot was empty. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was that through the fence, I could see Mercy Street, and on Mercy Street, I could see my car. Still parked 2 blocks away, where I'd left it 3 nights ago. The windows were covered in leaves, the tires were flat. And there, on the windshield, fluttering in the morning breeze, was an orange parking ticket. 3 days. I'd been here for 3 days. But it only felt like one night. Time moves differently here, Dr. Ashford said softly, reading my thoughts. 3 hours inside equals 3 days outside. By now, people have noticed you're missing. They're searching, but they'll never find you. Because you're not lost. He placed a cold, gray hand on my shoulder. You're home. The chains on the door fell away. The entrance swung open. Morning light flooded in, warm and golden and alive. I could leave. Right now. I could walk out that door and back to my life. But here's the thing they don't tell you about haunted places. Here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. Sometimes the ghosts are right. I thought about what waited for me outside. The empty apartment. The family that hadn't called in 2 years. The viewers who didn't actually know me. Who only wanted the next thrill. The next scare. The endless cycle of risking my life for strangers. Entertainment. Because it was the only time I felt real. I looked at Dr. Ashford. At the nurse. At the 48 patients behind them. All watching me with something that might have been pity. Or might have been understanding. Or might have been hope. Room 49 is ready whenever you are, Dr. Ashford said. Take your time. The choice is yours. The door stood open. The hospital stood waiting. And I'm still deciding. So that's where I am now. Recording this from the lobby of St. Catherine's Hospital. The sun is up. It's 6:01 a.m. The hospital has closed again. The lights have dimmed. The sounds have faded. And the doctors and nurses have retreated into whatever shadows they live in during the day. But I'm still here. I could leave. The door is still unlocked. I could walk out right now and return to my life. But the thing is, I don't know if I want to. Dr. Ashford was right about one thing. I've been halfway to death for years. Maybe I've always been patient number 49, just waiting for the right hospital to admit me. Tomorrow night at 3 a.m., the hospital will open again. I'll have to make my choice. Stay or go. Live or whatever this is. I'm recording this and scheduling it to upload automatically if I don't cancel it. If you're watching this, it means I stayed. It means I became patient number 49. It means St. Catherine's Hospital has one more permanent resident. Ooh, it's almost 6:02. I think they're coming back for me. If you're ever on Mercy Street, if you ever see St. Catherine's Hospital, don't go inside at 3 a.m. unless you're like me, unless you're already halfway gone, unless you're looking for somewhere to finally belong. Because trust me, they're always accepting new patients. And they've already picked out your room number.
Thanks for watching. Every ending hides the beginning of another tale, and ours is already on its way. Stay tuned, you'll find the next chapter right here, and soon.